fellow Geek Speakers, welcome to another episode of Respect Your Shelf. Today I'm going to do a little tutorial on how to make this Black Panther display diorama. It was originally just meant for when your figures are sitting on your bookshelf, a couple levels with the stairs with a nice little backdrop for Black Panther and all his friends and such. So to start off with, what I did was picked the size I wanted and then started gluing down the stairs and then put a weight on top of it. I got the styro glue from Hot Wire Foam Factory. Then I go online and I found an image that I wanted to use for the Black Panther symbol. There's plenty of them out there. This is just the one I chose. I taped it to my piece of styrofoam. Then you can either use a pencil or I have this burnishing tool. It's just a little metal tip that I use, and you trace the image onto the foam and it leaves an imprint. You can see here. I'm actually going to show you a video in a second before you start putting in the texture. So I'm very excited. This is the first time I actually used the engraving tool from my 3-in-1 toolkit from Hot Wire Foam Factory. I'm very excited to use all their tools and see what I can do with it. But this is, I wanted to make this symbol on the back and I didn't necessarily want to cut it out. So I decided to play with the engraving tool and kind of use it like you would a wood burning knife, if anybody's ever used one of those. And I kind of wanted it to look like the hammered metal kind of a look. So here I'm just giving an example of, I just took part of the picture and put it on there and traced it, and now I'm going to heat up my tool and just start carving out the shapes. One thing I did on the original one is you may have seen I drew on the foam a little bit. It was when the whole image was on there, I got kind of confused on what I was supposed to be carving out and what I was supposed to leave alone. So I just went through and drew a line through all the things that I was going to carve out just for my own, confusion that happens. So what I like to do is I just kind of dotted the outline first, just to give myself the borders, kind of like a coloring book. And then I would go through and poke a bunch of holes throughout the whole design, or melt a bunch of holes. And then after I did a bunch of holes, then I would just kind of run the tool over all the little walls it created, and it gives you a really neat texture, I thought. And then what I also did on the edges of the backboard, I took the side of the engraving tool and just ran it over the corners to take down all the edges so that they're not, sharp edges anymore. Kind of wanted it to look like worn down rock or chipped down rock. And whether it's rock or metal, it kind of could be either, considering. I was kind of excited about this project too. I've been wanting to do these display diorama type things. I mean, a lot of the dioramas I've done are more action things meant for the toy photography and everything. And this one I wanted to do a bunch of different ones, all meant, you could use them for toy photography and whatever, but largely meant for just displaying when they're on your shelf and just to give them a little bit of background to be in. So here's the final shot of the whole symbol on the back plate, and then as you can see I did the edges. Now you can see it, and it's not, you're gonna run into, it's not perfect, you're gonna have some mistakes here and there. Then I took the steps and I glued them onto the floor and glued those sides on, and then those holes in the back, those circles, are for the magnets that are going to hold the back onto it. Then what I also did is I like to add a texture so that you don't just have the flat of the styrofoam. So what I do is I take the edge of my X-Acto knife the back end, like the opposite end that has the blade, and I burnish, just rub it back and forth, all different directions, and it gives that bumpy texture, which I think mimics, you know, some kind of stone or even metal. Just gives it some, you know, life to it. Then I ended up adding these tusks in the back, kind of reminding me of the throne I made for Black Panther before, and I just it gave it a little extra something. So after I got it all assembled, then I like to put a coat of black gesso down and everything. Some of them I use black washes. You'll talk about a lot of people using black washes first. Sometimes I do more of a wash, but it kind of depends on what what the final paint job on it is. I really like using the black gesso because it's a little thicker. I feel like it seals everything a little bit more, and it gives a great priming coat for whatever painting you do on it. And I feel like it adheres better using the gesso, because really that's what gesso is. It's meant to be your undercoat of your acrylic paint when you're doing canvases and such. So here I am, just getting in all the nooks and crannies. The base isn't hard. And then when I get to the back, I gesso everything except where I use the hot tool to make the texture on the symbol. That I don't put black on, and I use straight purple because I didn't want the purple to get dulled down at all. So normally I would black everything, but in this case, since purple and black are similar, you know, are both really dark colors, I didn't want to dull down the purple at all. And I didn't want to put on like 6 layers of purple, so I just skipped that all together. If I would have been thinking a little more in depth, because I was really just meant it for display on a bookshelf, I maybe would have made the top step a little bit deeper. I haven't actually checked, but it would have been cool if the throne that I made would actually sit on the top. It kind of, at this point, might cover up a bunch of the symbol, but it would have been cool if I could maybe set that up there, and it would have made for a cool display. I'm gonna actually have to check, but I think it may not be big enough. Because of the base on the throne, it would overhang and it would look weird. That would have been a cool dual feature. So then, as we're waiting to get the black wash done, also when I started painting the symbol in the back, so there's lots of little nooks and crannies. I didn't paint the inside black at all until I did the purple, so that when I had the purple was going to splash over onto the black, then I could just easily cover with the black, and I didn't have to go back and forth quite so many times. I find that a lot of times doing these projects, you end up doing steps 3-4 times just because you did them in the wrong order, and you don't know it until you do it. So just trying to save you a little bit of time. So I paint all around the circle, and then I'll start doing the purple, and then I'll finish the purple, and I'll go back and do a little black gesso over it. Then over the black gesso, I actually do put another layer of regular black paint, just because I could have put another layer of gesso. One layer doesn't make it doesn't black it out or anything. You can still see the thinness. It's still transparent in some spots. But it is definitely a good base, I think. Then I put a layer of black down. He is Black Panther after all. And sometimes you'll see when I'm painting these big boards, not that they're gigantic or anything, but they move around a lot. So sometimes I'll put a weight on part of it. So you'll see like some duct tape or the thing of gesso or whatever. Just so when I'm painting back and forth and I can concentrate on the detail, I don't have to worry about the board sliding around on my table all the time, because that is what happens. I used to be very apprehensive about painting the magnets for some reason. It's like I felt like if I painted the magnet, it wouldn't work. They still work just fine. But I was always paranoid that you couldn't paint the magnet. Although I have recently ordered some magnets off Amazon that I would not recommend. It was a kind of total generic off-brand. I don't even know what they were. Whatever I put down in my supply list are all things that I would totally recommend. I'll have to add some magnets on there because the last ones I ordered were super thin and they're just weaker. They don't work as well. But that's another thing I can mention. I've started putting a supply list in the description of all the videos, just to give you a little bit of a hand picking out stuff sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start on some of these projects. I mean, now I have so much stuff lying around because I've done so many that I only have to go out and get little items here and there. But I do remember in the beginning I was like, what do I buy? What do I buy? And after you make a few, you got a lot of supplies on hand. It gets a lot easier. So there's a lot of stippling going on when you're doing the purple to get in those grooves. So although I think the texture is very cool, it is kind of a pain to paint. Sometimes you gotta keep turning the board so you can see all the little dots that you're not getting. You'll see the pink shine through, so you can cover it up. But definitely turn your piece a couple times while you're painting, and that will definitely help. There's also a link in the description for the Hot Foam Factory. They have some really awesome tools. It's taken my dial building to a whole different level, so I would absolutely suggest checking out their website. They also have some really cool glues. They also have some, I haven't tried them yet, but they have these really cool texture coatings and coverings that I want to try that can really change what you can do. They can make it waterproof, they can make it so you can put it outside, all sorts of stuff. So then after I got those base layers down, then I went back and made put some silver into a gray paint and then dusted over all the top ridges of the purple in the circle and in the symbol. So I wanted the dark to really pop, and then the light. This is kind of a too bright picture, you can't really see the highlights as much. Then I also took the gray and silver mixture and did a dry brushing over all the black. I kind of wanted it to look like it could possibly be metal that was shined or scratched, kind of like with that futuristic thing that they have going on in the movie. I was kind of going back and forth whether I wanted stuff to be like metal or black, but I really like how it turned out and the texture that it gave. And then here's going to be a full picture. It was fun. I was really excited now to do, I'm going to do a bunch of different, I did a Superman one after this. I have a Batman one I want to do, an Avengers one. So I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of simple but exciting. Then here are some pictures that Pete took just to show what you can do with it. And in some of them he did some really awesome lighting up ahead. So that's awesome. Be sure to check out his Instagram too, which is at the end, at Pete Menocal _ to see some awesome work. You can follow his toy photography. My Instagram is at Tiffy Haha Loves Life on Instagram, and you can see all the different dials I build, and I put a lot of work in progress photos on there and everything else. We also have a Facebook page. We occasionally put stuff on Etsy when, Pete actually lets me sell something that he doesn't want to keep for himself. I also do commissions, so if you ever want to hit me up for something like that, absolutely message. Thank you again for stopping by. Please follow our pages. Check out all the links in the descriptions and the supply list and everything else. I also just put together a t-shirt that if you like our channel and want to support us in that way, you can pick up a t-shirt on Amazon, and that would really help us out. If you ever want a certain video shown, please put it in the comments and I'll be sure to put one together. And like always, please remember to respect your shelf.